Hey, Miss R, Miss Ray Ray.
Hello, Missy Lisa. How are you?
I call you Ray Dog because that's only for guys, right?
Of course you would. You can call me whatever you want. Eric says he likes Ray Dog.
Ray Dog. What do you want to call me, Eric?
Mama. He says we can just call you Mama Elisa. He says, in fact, a lot of our blog members do call you that.
They do. And Mama Bear, because
Yeah.
nobody gonna mess with my peeps. Okay. Anyway, we digress. We are going to talk about. I've had several emails from people. I'm going to also check my sound settings because my picture's not coming up every time I talk. Um, that are just not wanting to be here. And some are seriously, they've got some suicidal ideation. Of course, I give them all the resources to contact because, they need to contact a mental health professional, suicide hotline, etc. But talk to me, Eric. I really don't have, it's just an open floor for you.
He
We've all
says, well,
been through that.
he says, Mom, this is a really touchy topic because unfortunately a lot of people are dealing with this at the moment. And what you have to realize for those of you that are going through these hard times, oh no, can you hear me? I can hear the feedback on my audio.
No, I'm fine. Seems fine.
Okay, cool. We're good. Sorry. Because for the people that are going through this, you have to realize that there's something emotional within you that's not being met. There's an emotional need that's not being met. Not always can you get that emotional need from somebody else, which a lot of people don't have a connection that they're making. And by connection, I mean having somebody there for support, whether this is a support group or an online group. It doesn't even necessarily mean stepping out of the home. But a lot of people don't have this connection and that support. And so they feel very alone, like nobody's there for them. And therefore, the emotional need that's not being met is being linked to not having the support or not having somebody else fulfill the need that's not being met. He says, emotions tend to come up during Mercury retrograde about your past and about something that you may be holding on to, be good or be it bad. He says the point of having these lessons come up is to resurface the memories and to allow yourself to go through the memories that you have not, to process the stuff that you have been holding on to. A lot of the depression and the anxiety is stagnant energy in a lot of people, not only from this lifetime, but from other lifetimes. He says the advice that I can give to everybody that doesn't have services available to them, such as a therapist or even emotional support from their family, is for you to get up on your own 2 feet and start making a difference by yourself. You start little by allowing yourself to balance you as an individual. When you have a depression or an anxiety, there's an imbalance with you. When you're needing something to help you cope with the problem, there's an imbalance. He says, Mom, bring out the balancing beams. You've got yin and you've got yang. He says, when these two are not balanced, then this doesn't make it a good combination for you as the human body and as the human vessel. He says, and so you have to find balance. It can be yin and yang, it can be giving and receiving. Balance yourself as an individual. Am I working too much? Do I have time for myself? What do I enjoy? There's an emotional need that's not being met with yourself as an individual, and this emotional need cannot be met by somebody else. So my advice to you is to stand up on your own 2 feet and start to balance yourself. Begin by stretching. By stretching, you move stagnant energy. Go down and touch toes, people. Oh man, you're not an acrobat, Eric.
Yeah.
You're going to end up hurt. He's over here stretching and being silly with his legs behind his neck and
Oh my
god
God.
awful positions.
You can do anything like that now.
He says, point being, stretching or yoga helps to move that stagnant energy. And so for those of you that feel stuck, that have not had any movement, stand up and start some stretching. what about those that are not able to move?
Oh, yes. Of course, yeah.
So he says, and so if you're dealing with a disability and you are having these suicidal thoughts, you cannot have movement with the physical body. He says, well, then is your mind. You forward,
Stretch
what
your
is that
mind.
word puzzle?
Oh, okay. Stretch your mind. Okay, got it.
Stretch your mind. He says, have an active mind. And sitting in front of a TV is not stretching the mind.
Well, what about
Use
having,
some form of word
well,
puzzles.
oh,
What-
what about somebody else working on your chakras, clearing and balancing them, like Ryan Dragna? He does that a lot, and there are many others that do. Or, of course, there's music that can do something with the chakras and tones and all that. Can you
Absolutely.
do that?
You can always do that, but everybody doesn't have the access to have those energy healers at all times. And so to have them with something they can do on their own it's getting personal. They're getting to the bottom of the problem too. And it does balance the chakras. Now, a lot of people will actually need that kind of boost of energy from an energy healer. We have chi in our body. There's different chis in our body. Um, for those of you that are struggling with, say, fatigue, for an example, there's a spleen chi deficiency in your body. You can Google spleen QI deficiency, spleen chi deficiency, and you often struggle from fatigue, craving sweets, craving sugars, overeating, and also substance abuse is something that is a part of the spleen chi because there's something that they're trying to balance within themselves. And so there's many different centers of actually energy work that you can focus on in the body. There's many different centers of types of energy healing. But if you don't have resources available to you, you can always balance these energies by yourself
They go
by
to YouTube,
stretching
huh?
because
Yeah, just they go on YouTube and find, how can
you
I
can.
balance and cleanse my um my chakras, and they have, I'm sure, like meditation things where, okay, imagine you have a pitcher full of blue water and you're filling up, so I remember something like that from Jamie Butler, but yeah.
Yes. And it clears the old emotion and it helps you to focus. He says, so if there's stagnant energy in the body and you need to have help with either an energy healer or with you doing it yourself, you begin by putting your body in motion because the body in motion is key. However, if you're disabled and cannot have a body in motion, to have someone do some form of range of motion on your arms and on your legs to help you to get the energy flowing. It's a different form of stretch that you would need to do as a disabled person. But as it is so important to also stretch the mind, and by stretching, you're so graphic. He's getting a rubber band and stretching the rubber band.
Okay.
Says you need to stretch the mind. And by allowing the mind to stretch, you're also allowing the mind to be active. When a mind is no longer active, your body is no longer active. Word puzzles, games, anything that is going to have your mind active and focusing and thinking, reading. Very much an active thinker, an active mind.
That New York Times crossword puzzle. Oh, God. Okay, so
He said,
there are different types of suicidal, ideations. One common one, which is very impulsive, of course, is the vindictive one, like, fuck you, I'll show you, I'm going to die, and you got to be without me. Of course, the other is like, you just can't handle what's in front of you. Like, suppose you just found out your house got flooded and you had no insurance and you're out a couple of $100,000. You don't want to face it, so you want out of here. Or you have the loss, especially the loss of a soulmate. That's tough. Or of course, major depression, etc. Do you want to go through some of that? Or another one could be like, maybe you took your own life in another life at around the same age, and all of a sudden you feel this impulse to take your life. So that's kind of bleed through from another life. So do you want to talk about some of that? What if you said, nah?
We'll talk about, He says, yeah, Mom, let's go over all of it because it's all really important and different scenarios for people. He says it all really still ties into stagnant energy. However, when you look at something that's coming in from a previous lifetime, you will all of a sudden feel a shift. He's using himself as an example. He says, think about myself as a little boy. I was very happy and outgoing until my teen years, something switched. He says there will be a switch in your child or in yourself that's going to be ununderstandable, or you're not going to recognize where it's coming from. He says these types of things are not going to be easily understood or known to the human unless they're interested in going back and seeing a previous lifetime for themselves. For this, what they need to do is they need to ground to the current life that they're in right now. That way they don't feel this other emotion from people. And by grounding, I mean being consistent with their life, not being all over the place. Because when a person is all over, they're very ungrounded, and you tend to tap into previous lifetimes of yours. Although you are doing that for a reason, you know, all of your lifetimes do affect the one that you are in right now. He says, even though it's simultaneously, it's all affecting where you're at right now. He says,
Well,
so hypnosis,
would it have to do past life regression?
that's what he's talking about right now. He says hypnosis or regression would help those that are feeling sad and depressed but cannot pinpoint why they're sad, why they're depressed. I have everything that I want, that I desire, but yet there's something missing inside of me. This isn't coming from where you're at right now. This is coming from the past. And so a past life regression, a hypnosis, or you going on and finding your own hypnosis on YouTube to regress your mind. Now, when you do something like this, you want to make sure that you are ready to either hear or see. You're funny. He says, and it's not like a light bulb and you're going to have this big vision of seeing something else. Everybody's experience is different. And so for some people, they may have thoughts that are going on in their head that are not so positive about what they've done in another life, or they may just have a simple image that just goes from image to image. Every person is going to be different. And so don't have an expectation on what you're going to see. Allow your mind to...
Life. I mean, it could be from a future life because all lives are happening now. So I guess other life regression or progression, I don't know.
He says hypnosis, Mom. Really? He's going into another topic. He says hypnosis is going to be linked to time traveling this coming century. They're going to be linking hypnosis to some form of time traveling.
What do you mean? You could hypnotize people so that they could travel through time?
And change their reality?
That's cool.
Yes. He says to change where they're at right now.
Oh, I'd like to go back in time and fix some messes. Would that be possible? Probably not in my lifetime, but...
He's talking about where you are right now and how things have already unfolded. No, you can't change what's already passed. But what you can do is you can go see something that may unfold and that you want to change. You do have that option available.
Well, I want to see the next lotto number. That's what I want.
He goes, me too, Mom. He says, let me know when you find them.
Yeah, right.
You're funny. He went on something whole different. He always goes on his tangents. I tell you, this guy gets distracted like that.
I know. That's so true. Okay, go ahead. So past life, other life hypnosis, that's good.
So he says that's for the people that don't understand where their sadness or where their emotions are coming from. If you have sat down and thought and you cannot find what emotional need is not being met, then it's not from this world. It's not from this lifetime. He says, now, Mom, let's talk about depression and anxiety with people that have lost somebody, so they're dealing with the grief. I'm going to throw in the loss of a marriage and a death of somebody. They are basically the same thing. You're still losing, and it's not coming back. He says, so when you look at this type of depression and when somebody feels hopeless and sorrow, it's something that they have a hard time with coping with because their life is now changing. What they have to learn to do is to process this emotion Suicide and death is not always the problem, but what you have to do is you have to find comfort and ground to move forward with where you are in life now. He says, the human part of the mind, our humanness is not going to understand the way that our bodies work, the way that the world works. We come here to experience certain things. Some of those things happen to be grief. Some of those things happen to be loss. Not always are they good or positive experiences, but you will be learning something out of it eventually. He says a lot of the times when you have this type of anxiety or depression, this person is needing to make a connection with another person, because when you have that loss, you feel alone. You're not coming in to be a human, to be alone. To harm it yourself, and a depression does come with this. He says, so my advice with people that are stuck with this is to find some form of organization, some form of group or community that is going to help you to process and deal with grief and to help you to move forward. He says, Mom, it doesn't happen in the snap of the finger. It takes years to really get over the fact that someone is gone and is not returning, even if they're alive or dead. He says it's a loss and it's something that you are not in control of, and you have to learn to process those emotions.
Well, would it help to learn how to communicate with those that you love that are deceased? Or, of course, go to a medium and communicate and continue to have some sort of relationship, either through a medium or with your own developing.
So when talking about someone who has lost someone and they are now deceased, then yes, to encourage the person to get into some form of group where they would be able to learn how to communicate to their loved ones. Go visit a spiritual counselor, a medium of whoever you are drawn to, and communicate with them and learn to have a relationship with your loved one, even though they are not there in the physical. A lot of people do receive visitations from their loved ones. You're funny. They do receive visitations from your loved ones. Some of them are shocking and they do not understand what they're seeing, or they disbelieve what's in front of them, whether it's in person or whether it's in a dream or whether it's in a picture that you're catching. And so a lot of people are unaware that this is how their loved ones come back to communicate with them. He says, so for people to understand that we're still alive after our body is dead is key, and learning how to have a relationship with the soul instead of with the body is also key.
Well,
he says,
you teach people how to do that, right? You have a school.
Absolutely.
And, check her out at angelmedium7.com. So that would be helpful. Also, I found that a lot of people who have lost people really have been healed, maybe not completely, but have gone very far toward healing by reading your book, Erik, My Life After Death, because then there's no mystery as to where your loved one is, what he is like, what he or she is doing, what their emotions are like, what the trees there look like, everything. It just demystifies death and the afterlife and makes it more tangible. And that's what we want. We want tangible.
Tangible is what people need, because we're human. We need to have that tangible. We need to have that something of what we can grasp onto.
We live in a 3D physical world. We need physicality.
Absolutely. And he says, Mom, that is so healing for so many people, which is a part of my work with you, is bringing healing to those that are suffering from grief. He's explaining that your books are going to be healing for many more people to come, and his work is going to spread so much love around the world. He says, being able to hear my mom's story and coming from her standpoint of not having a belief system put in place to believing and communicating with me is huge. He says, one thing I want to throw out there is that the grief of a child or a spouse is something that really you never get over, but you learn to cope with. What my mom has learned to do is she's learned to push through her days, and she's learned to have a relationship with me, with my spirit body and not with my physical body. yeah, I have the same fucked up sense of humor that I had when I was alive. The only thing that's missing is my body, but you can still communicate with me. The one thing that's really important for everybody to remember is if you are really held down by grief, your vibration is low. Spirit vibration vibrates very high. And so you want to try and get out of the funk as best as possible. For if you think as an example, for my mom, music changes her mood instantaneously, and it does for a lot of people. Whether this is a memory, a song that sparks off a memory, or whether this is just a happy song that you enjoy, put on that music and raise your vibration, and then try connecting to your loved ones.
Yeah,
Once you just say,
with a little science here, everything is energy. Even, I got a crystal book, by the way.
I love it.
Matter, which Einstein called frozen light. So we are also energy, and we have our own unique frequency. So our emotions and thoughts, they're a form of energy too. Love is all energy. So anyway, when you are depressed, then you're okay, and all this energy has its own unique spot on the long electromagnetic spectrum, right? You got X-rays, cosmic rays, microwaves. We're in a tiny little sliver called the visible range. That's where our 3D world is. That's where we see stuff. That's where we inhabit. And so if you are on the low end of that range, and that's why we say, I feel low, I'm depressed, okay? Then here are these guys who are vibrating a much higher frequency. It's so much harder to get to us and manifest and prank and all that. So if you get yourself to the top end of the electromagnetic spectrum, watch your favorite stand-up comedian. Who's that guy? Rodney Carrington. He is awesome. Or music or dance, whatever. That will help.
Mm-hmm. It does, because it vibrates at different frequencies. He's using the triangle as an example, and you see how it starts at the bottom and then it goes up, and then it can come back down, but it can also go back up again. He says managing that frequency to stay at the top, this is going to be where our energy can meet your energy. Mm-hmm. And so to maintain a happy and healthy energy.
Yeah, so love knows no boundaries. It's what I have in my book. Not even death, okay? I mean, you can continue to have a relationship with your loved ones. There's no reason why you shouldn't. They just don't have a body, and they're in some parallel dimension.
Yes. Do you know the way
anymore?
Erik has explained this dimension thing. So the best way for you guys to understand how our dimensions work here is imagine a cup. So you've got a cup of milk, mm-hmm. and in the cup of milk, you want to make chocolate milk. You put a spoon of chocolate in there and you spin it up. The swirly tunnel or tornado, that is how our dimensions work. The top dimension, you can consider that being where we are. And then as it tunnels, there's different dimensions. Most of these dimensions are here on Earth. We just can't see them with our physical eye. It's not really a downwards motion. It's more of a cross motion, mm-hmm. for the dimensions instead of kind of like a tunnel downwards.
Like heaven is up. I remember through Jamie ages ago, he mm-hmm. said it was like one of those frozen yogurt, half chocolate, half vanilla swirls. The dimensions are sort of swirled onto each other.
Yes. But they don't overlap each other, but they're basically like layered on top of each other or across, whichever way is easiest for you to understand.
Okay.
And so that's where Erik is.
Types we've got impulse, depression. Yeah, we've got most of those. And then there's the vindictive one.
Well, he says, let's think about the vindictive. This is a different type of depression and anxiety. This is more of a mental illness, but also it is very vindictive because what the person is trying to do is they're trying to hurt somebody because that person has hurt them. If you're being vindictive, there is an emotional need that's not being met with you, and you are trying to get it from the other person. He says the individual has to realize that they need to find happiness within themselves, and that being vindictive is not going to help anybody, not even them or the other person. In fact, it makes more of a problem for the other person and the entire family.
What other, of the person you're leaving behind?
You're being vindictive.
Well,
He
you
says
know, oh, go ahead.
in most cases like this, the person is not going to take the amount of medication that is needed or is not going to do it correctly. They're trying to make a point. For those that are very serious and do actually accomplish this, Mom, it becomes something that they do regret. He says, so if you are feeling emotional because of somebody else and you are being vindictive, chances are when you get to the other side, you're going to be very regretful of the decision that you just made.
Yeah.
He says, every type of suicide is different, but the one that is vindictive is the one that is most regretted when they come back.
I was going to ask about that, but I don't think you have to be mentally ill to say to do the "fuck you" suicide. I mean, you could be kind of drunk at a bar, and your boyfriend or your girlfriend just confesses that he's been cheating on you, and then you go home and you're not really exercising much judgment because you're tipsy or drunk, and so you swallow a whole bunch of pills.
He said, well, Mom, that's not necessarily vindictive. That's overwhelmed with the information, necessarily vindictive. He says, when I think of vindictive, I think of I'm going to hurt myself to piss somebody else off.
Well,
And
that would be a girl that wants her ex-boyfriend or a cheating boyfriend, for example, to suffer for his sins, so to speak.
he says, I get it, Mom. You've got a point.
Okay. Another thing, well, let's talk about regret, because I think you've told me before that a lot of people who take their lives, I don't like commit suicide. I don't really like that, and you don't either, I know. But a lot of them get there, and all of a sudden, they realize it's a mistake. They see everybody else suffering. They hear every every thought. They feel every heartbreak. Not only that, they also see that that they have disturbed the spiritual path of others. Maybe they now are no longer going to be to father that daughter that's going to grow up to find a cure for cancer or diabetes. And so because of that, so many people are going to suffer and die.
He says, Mom, there's not really a good answer for this, or
I don't think I'm asking a question. I just want your 2 cents on that thought.
he says it's a very good thought, and he says I follow it.
Okay. Well, how do you know? Because your suicide was a contract. You were supposed to suffer a
Very
lot
different.
and develop compassion and listening skills and all that, so you can be better at what you're doing right now. But how does one know if they're to take their life based on a contract versus
They're not
your true exit point?
He says, you as a human, you're not supposed to know the time of your death or your exit, so it's not something that you will know. He says, in my situation, I could not handle my own thoughts anymore.
Yeah.
I could not handle my feelings. And so everybody, it's going to be a different scenario. The reason I follow that is because I acted on how I felt. I didn't know that this was my contract. When I got here, I had seen why I had suffered, and I had also seen my past lives. What I know now is that my suffering was to help those that are suffering right now that I am helping, and to try and keep people from committing suicide, and also to help people to communicate and to get out of the funk that they're in. He says, so my path is a little bit different. I am against suicide, and my work is to prevent it. Very clear, it is to prevent it.
Well, go ahead.
Your death, it's not going to be known. How do I know if my contract is suicide? You don't. He says you find that out when you cross over, and that's the hard part, because you have deja vu and it's not something that's supposed to be known.
Well, I get so many people who say, how can I find out? I really want to leave. How can I find out it's part of my contract or not?
He says if they're supposed to leave, they will.
Okay. And what about people who are terminally ill? Is that okay for them to?
He says yes, and he's talking about laws needing to come to help with assisted suicide, and this is something that is also coming. Some states are now providing this, but there's not a lot of states that are providing it. And this is if you have a terminal illness, whether this is cancer or something else.
What if it's not a terminal illness, but you're a quadriplegic?
He says, I believe that you as the human should have the right to decide on if I want to stay here or if I don't, which is why you have come down with free will. He says, but in terms of the law, he says that is not something that is going to be given to people that are being paralyzed by quadriplegic or any form of paralysis.
Okay. Well, I get a lot of people who say that when people commit suicide, and of course this is a religious filter, they go to purgatory or hell and they need to be rescued. This one YouTuber, Abby Normal, she says that, Eric, you're in a really dark place, that since you give nasty smells, and you could not be angelic, that you're suffering, and it's her job to save you from the downward spiral, blah, 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 blah. So what do you say to that? You devil you?
It's a load of shit. He says, I am in such a happy, positive, light place right now, and my shit only stinks because I make it stink.
There we go. So they don't go to hell, people, because guess what? There is no hell.
There is no hell. He says, Mom, there is no hell. He says there are lower vibrations.
Yeah.
You don't go there when you fucking die. There is no hell.
Well, why was the idea of hell even created?
To help humanity to behave better, to help us to be civil with other humans. It was put in belief systems to really help us to be better people and to bring fear into us of something negative that can happen to us if we commit a sin or if we do a crime. He says it was all something that has been man-made, added into bring fear into people to help you to be better behaved. He says not only is it, he says it's not negative and it's also not positive. He says what people are now realizing is what is right and what is wrong, what is made up and what is accurate. He says as you look at these stories that you've been told, you can really start to think that's good, that's not good, that's right, that's bad. He says so you learn to distinguish what resonates with you. He says it was put in to keep your ass in check.
Well, that's just messed up because, you should just do the right thing even when no one's looking. So this has externalized everything. First of all, I think really not wanting to be here has a lot to do with not getting the fact that happiness only comes from within and power only comes from within. You don't get it externally through other people, valuing you or et cetera, et cetera. It's all inside here. Everything you need is in here. And so the health thing, it's like that's an externalization of you have no power and you can be totally happy because, whether you go to hell or not is going to be determined externally.
Absolutely.
Hallelujah. Sing it, sister.
He goes, ding, Mom, you got it. You are on it. He says, he's talking about how he communicates with you now. And as you're communicating with him, you're channeling information. You're not realizing it, but what you're doing is you have a negative and a positive, me and you.
Yeah.
This is a negative and a positive. And so it's easy for you to channel. For those of you that are trying to channel, practice with another person because you'll have a negative and a positive. It's a good connection that you have there. And so you may not realize that you're channeling, but you are. Just these thoughts come to your mind and you speak.
I bet you can practice channeling with living people,
Yeah.
Can't you just have a spiritual group and practice channeling each other? Like when I saw Arlene, I was out camping with her this weekend, and I said, "Oh, think of a number between." I made it easy, 1 and 4. boom, she guessed it. Think of a number from, I am thinking of a number from, 5 to 10, and she guessed it every single freaking time. So practicing, channeling, I guess.
She's channeling. Not
Yeah.
only that, that's also a form of like telepathic, because she's getting that thought out of your mind. So it's different type of channeling that she's doing.
Channeling, because you're reading thoughts, right?
Yes, it is. It's a form of channeling, which is really incredible.
Okay,
Encourage her to keep that going. And it's like a game, it's an exercise. And it opens it up even more, it makes it bigger. Think of it as like a muscle, your abilities, your mediumship, it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the bigger it gets. And
yeah.
so continue doing it so it grows.
I wish I could do the e-board, without having a medium on the other side. I mean, I swear to God, I can't do it with my husband. He's too grounded to earth. But
Oh my gosh, that thing moves with when I just put one finger on it, it's gone.
all right, so before we leave the subject of regret, what percentage of people, I mean, it's not just the FU types, but what percentage of people who do take their lives actually regret it?
He said 50% of it, Mom. 50% of the people regret it. When I want you to know that some suicide is contracted, as mine was, that does not mean that it's promoted. But he says even if it is, it's still something that the soul does regret, because they look at their family and they look at the pain that they're going through. And so they look back and they say, like, from my standpoint, fuck. And so there is a sense of risk about everyone.
Wait, say that last thing. From my standpoint, what?
From my standpoint, I said, fuck, what did I do?
Oh, yeah, okay.
And I did feel the regret, but after the regret, I did have happiness that came.
Yeah.
So even though there may be regret and remorse, there is still happiness that does follow that for the spirit. And so I don't want people to think that their loved ones are feeling regretful the entire time, because that's not the case. Although it is something, an emotion that they will feel, it's not an emotion that they necessarily keep for very long.
Okay, well, if you do feel regret after you take your life, what can you do to make things better?
He says you make contact with your family. He says you let them know that you're okay, you make your presence known, and you help your family
And
in ways that you couldn't help when you were there.
Erik can teach you how.
He says, bingo, I can teach you how. He says, right now, I would really like to keep people on earth and teach people how to really be healthy with themselves, how to move energy through their bodies, even if you're carrying something that's past or something that's from this life, you can get through it. If you have a support group, whether this is online or whether this is in person, if you go to a medium, if you learn how to communicate with your loved ones, make some form of connection, because these things will help you to move forward. There is an answer.
Yeah, or you can channel your guardian angel or your guides for advice, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
No.
He
Oh,
says,
go ahead.
do some research on energy centers in your body for yourself. Look up symptoms that you're having. Google. He says, and see where you have imbalances with your chakras. He says you can teach yourself very easily. A little Google or Pinterest.
Yeah. Well, now, I guess some people feel this way, like they don't want to be here anymore because they are off their spiritual path. If that's it, they just don't. They need to know their spiritual purpose. So is that true, or am I just full of bull?
No, he says, Mom, some people do get off of path throughout their life. And a lot of people feel that they've been drawn off of path. And so needing to find out what their purpose is really important for them, because it can put you back on track. He says, there is no right or wrong. Just remember that with life, there is no right or wrong. But you do have a mission that you are coming in to complete, and you may get sidetracked or distracted on the way. He says, if you need a little guidance to put you back on path, then that's fine.
Okay, so what about between lives hypnotherapy, where you go to that planning stage right before you incarnate? And that's kind of where you decide on your spiritual mission or purpose, if there's any difference, right?
It is. He says not only before you get ready to come in, but it is thought and planned prior to you coming in. He says if you want to think about how long does it take to plan, he says all of your lives are planned at the same time simultaneously.
Wow.
So it was planned before you decided to go in and be birthed.
Yeah. And so you could go to Robert Schwartz. I think it's Your Soul's Plan. I think it's URSOULSPLAN.com. He did a between lives regression on me that was crazy great. You can look up that YouTube if you want. But his name is Richard Schwartz. If you feel like, I don't know why I'm here, what's going on, then he will regress you to that point where you're in the, visualizing and observing what's going on with the planning. So I recommend that highly.
Absolutely. And once you get to see those past lives, it's really healing for a lot of people. Now, after you see that and you release the emotion, and for some of you might still feel a little bit down or held down, look at the energy centers in your body. As I had mentioned, there's the spleen chi energy center, and there's also the kidney chi. And it's not, the chi is QI. You can look up kidney QI deficiency or spleen.
I'm so glad you said that.
QI deficiency. Begin with these. There's steps that you can do on your own at home. Watch some videos, do some stretches. The spleen is connected to the solar plexus, so any crystals that connect to solar plexus is going to help. The kidney is connected to the root chakra, the kidney chi. So do some grounding or use some root crystals. But there's lots of things that you can do to balance those energy centers in the body. A lot of times, even after regression, you still got to balance yourself, balance the centers in the physical.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is cool because these are the last couple of questions I have. Crystals. So what kind of crystals would be good for the root chakra, and also then which would be good for the solar plexus? Get a pen and paper, people.
Pen and paper. You're funny. So for the solar plexus is right above your belly button. If you are to put 3 fingers like this, where right above the belly button, 3 fingers, where your pointer finger sits is going to be where the solar plexus is. Citrine, CITRINE, it's a yellow crystal, and any yellow crystal will resonate with the solar plexus. Also, black kyanite, that's KYANITE. It aligns your chakras. It balances all of them, actually. But it's really good when you're trying to battle depression or anxiety.
So
it balances you.
With the kyanite,
So,
black kyanite, or
with the black kyanite, so I'm going to use my throat as an example, but you would do this on your solar plexus. You don't touch the skin directly, but you get a crystal and you do a slanted motion. The slanted motion is cutting the cord, cutting the energy. Do that for about 30 seconds, and then you're going to turn in a circle motion. If you start turning and it feels like a little painful to you, turn the other direction.
Yeah, because each chakra has, some are counterclockwise and some are clockwise. So would it help to look up the rotational direction of the chakra before you start doing that?
If you're a female, it's going to go counterclockwise, and if you're a male, it's going to go clockwise.
On all of them?
No, for the solar plexus only.
Oh.
That's the solar plexus one. So that's that one for that one. They all go different directions though, so you're going to want to look up all of that. But the solar plexus specifically, female is clockwise, and then male is counterclockwise.
Okay, and then
I had that reversed the first time.
What the root chakra? What direction? Okay, what would you use? It was the black kyanite and something. What was it?
So the root. Black kyanite is what you would use for the solar plexus, and citrine.
Yeah, okay.
But black kyanite works for all of your chakras. It corresponds to the root chakra specifically. So you would do that same thing, And it really actually doesn't matter when you're using crystals. If you feel like you're turning the wrong way, it doesn't matter which way you're turning the crystal. It's still going to balance that energy. But our chakras do spin a certain directions, but you're not going to spin it wrong, and you're not going to overdo it or underdo it. The crystal will ultimately put the energy where it needs to go. And so you'll do that same exercise with a black crystal or black kyanite, any brown crystals such as jaspers. Those all correspond to the root chakra. Now the other thing, what was that?
Tiger's eye, would that be one?
Tiger's eye is very good. If you're really forgetful, really spacey, you're ungrounded, and tiger's eye would be beneficial. Your root chakra is on your pelvic area. So you can either do that exercise, do the spinning motion with the crystal for about 2 minutes. And then once you're done with that, you can tape the crystals on your body with medical tape or with a Band-Aid. Or you don't have to. You can put it in your pocket. You can wear a necklace so it's around your neck. But having the crystal on your body is really important after you do that, just to keep the energy in your energetic field.
And you set the intention for what it's supposed to do. This citrine is going to clean and balance my solar plexus, right?
You do. Setting intention, every crystal doesn't need to have an intention to it, but if you do, it does help. When you do it on your chakras and you're balancing, you don't need intention for that. The crystal energy is doing it for you.
Okay.
Clear quartz, you can assign it to anything. So say you're using clear quartz, you want to hold the clear quartz in your hand, the hand that you write with, and you're going to intend, please balance me, or please balance my chakras, please balance my feminine and masculine energy. Whatever your intention is going to be what the crystal does. I always tell people to use crystals a couple of days before you really notice that big change. So for the solar plex, for example, those of you that are depressed and anxiety, your solar plexus is your power center. You're either feeling like you're not in control or you have no power, and that's where the anxiety or the depression comes in from. And so with that, you're going to want to wear something to balance that solar plexus for a couple of days before you start to feel kind of like the sun is starting to come out, or more motivated, like I want to do things now. And it's not going to be a happy fix overnight. It's going to take some time, because with the imbalance, it didn't happen overnight. The imbalance may have come from a bad relationship or something from childhood. And so it's going to take some time to balance those energy centers. And so use the crystals for a couple of days or for a couple of weeks and be consistent with them. It's like a medication. You want to be consistent for them to continue to work. And after the blockage is removed, then you won't need the crystal. But the one thing you want to remember is you're human and you're having an experience. So you're going to continue to build static energy or, imbalance in chakras, because we're having experiences. We're busy. We get, hectic lives, and not to mention, politics and things.
Or pick up other people's energy that gets stuck to us, right?
Yeah, you do. And so you pick up all the stuff from others. And so you have to give time to remove the unbalanced energy, and give yourself time to balance yourself.
Well, would it be a good idea to do it after you feel like it's all balanced, like do it on a regular basis, just a little tune-up?
I would say, yes, I like that, a tune-up. About once a month, give yourself a tune-up. For me, what I do is I have a chakra chart. The chart says balanced, unbalanced, overactive, and underactive. And it has symptoms on the chart of, what it is. And so I'll read through the symptoms, and that's kind of how I know. Also, because I am really familiar with the chakras and I know like what they do. For example, like my motivation comes from my sacral. If I'm not having motivation, I know that I'm dealing with the sacral imbalance. So I search, what does each chakra do for me? And also anxiety is linked to the crown chakra. So if your crown is not opened, you're also going to experience anxiety, but not so much depression. So if you're suffering from just anxiety, it's likely a crown chakra imbalance, and you're needing to use clear quartz or something that's got like a purple tint. Amethyst, it's got clear and purple. And I think purple or clear is going to be for that crown. And so a necklace, the crown is actually not even on the head, it's above it.
Yes.
And you can do that same motion, even though you're not seeing it, it's still going to work for you. Do that same motion. Or you can just wear the necklace around your neck, a bracelet, and have the intention of balancing your crown chakra.
I went took Arlene, who loves crystals, that's my granddaughter, to this great crystal shop in Galveston. What you've heard, Mysticats.
I love it.
One of my relatives wants something for motivation. And so they said to, in the dominant hand, hold pyrite, and the receiving hand, and the other hold citrine. I don't know for how long, but whatever.
Because it helps you to focus, and it also helps with motivation. Oh, I love that. I love it. I love it. I need to get that. Change your energy. These crystals really do work. They really, really do work. And most of them in the books that I've had, they explain like what chakras they resonate.
Right.
And there's actual books that will teach you how to do the energy healing with the crystals.
Do you think that you could let us know what chakra chart you're talking about and where to get it?
So I actually just Googled it. I've gotten several of them. I go onto Google and I type in chakra chart, or you can go onto Pinterest and type in chakra chart,
Okay.
and it'll pop up for you. So it's not something that you'll even have to pay for.
Okay.
I did mine.
Okay.
Mine was Google.
Okay. Two more things, real briefly, because we're out of time pretty much. I mean, almost. Aromatherapy. Is there? Yeah. Any particular?
Yes.
It'll help
So
people from not feeling like they want to off themselves.
he says orange or lemon essential oils, citrus essential oils. This kind of changes your mood. He says, not kind of, it does. It changes your mood and it brings happy thoughts to you, citrusy smells. He says, Mom, when you clean the house and they use pine sol or something like that, you've got that refreshing,
Yeah.
happy smell now. That's what the essential oil will do for you. It'll give you that clean sensation. He says, think about it. Your energy is needing to be cleaned. The aroma cleans your energy.
So polish them tables with lemon pledge, people. Or they have a lot of orange scented cleaners. So yeah, do
They
that. Right?
do.
Or you
I
can
like his example.
the scents on a lava bead bracelet, and when you're feeling kind of down, just sniff it. It'll look kind of
He
weird, but
says,
I feel so much better now.
and people won't even know that there's essential oil in the lava bracelet. They have necklaces where you can put a little ball in there with essential oil. In fact, there's a lot of kids that are now being able to go to school with this necklace around their neck, smelling it and helping them to calm or helping them to focus.
Yeah, or they
It's really therapeutic.
when they're sniff it.
Yeah.
Okay, last but not least, well, yeah, last question. Can you give us some more grounding techniques? You said grounding is super important. The people who want to kill themselves are all over the place, etc. Just give me one of your favorites, Erik. Grounding technique.
Taking a bath with Epsom salt or sea salt.
Oh, okay.
Because for those that don't have a bathtub available to them and only have a shower, you can take the sea salt or the Epsom salt in your hand and rub it around your body. He says the salt is the thing that's detoxifying and it's also the thing that's grounding you.
Cool. And
Walking in nature.
you can envision all the black energy just going down the drain back to being recycled in Mother Earth.
He says, yeah, Mom, and it clears you. He says, envision trees, branches coming up from your feet and up to your body, and this is grounding you to the earth. Visualizing is very easily done.
Mm-hmm.
He says, don't put pressure on yourself. Grounding can be very easily. He says, but my favorite is actually drinking water. Drink more water, people.
Oh God, I'm awful about that, man. All right, and what was it else I was going to say about grounding?
He says, Mom, are you grounded? He's totally making fun of you.
I almost never am, but no, there was one other thing. Oh, well, anyway, be sure y'all clean your crystals when you buy them, because people in the crystal shop have been handling them. You never know where their energy's been. And you can do that by just intention. It's like, you are now clean, right? Or you can.
Yes, intention.
Yeah,
You can run them underwater.
Yeah, put them
You
in.
can put them in sunlight. You can put them in moonlight. There's lots of techniques available.
Yeah, you can look that up. And how often do you need to clean your crystals?
Depending on how often you use them, but I'd say at least once a month. If you're wearing a bracelet all week long, then I would say at the end of the week to cleanse it.
Okay, that's easy enough to do. Now, one thing I do want to say is I think that a lot of people who are stuck and just don't want to be here anymore, they want to take their lives. I think part of it is they've got this element of victimhood, you know, they don't know their own power within, and it's kind of egocentric, right? So I think what would help a lot of people is to kind of tweak your perspective, and instead of being in the woe is me thing, you'll flip to the what can I do to help the world or to help this person. Do one thing every day that is giving, like smile and connect your eyes to the person at the drive-through. You know, tell the manager at a restaurant how awesome your waiter or waitress is. Join a humanitarian organization, whatever. Give. It does elevate the vibration and makes you feel like you have some sort of purpose, and you're not sitting there focusing on your woe is me thing.
He says, Mom, I'm going to give you another tangent. He says, giving to somebody is key to you being happy as well. You can give a compliment to the person that's helping you. Give a compliment to your coworker, to your mom, to your sibling, to your dog, whoever is there with you, saying, I love you, you're beautiful. He says, that is you giving positivity, and that will come back to you. He says, you think about our earth, the vibration of every person, our earth feels that vibration. So whether that's a happy or a negative. And so what my mission to do is to help people to heal, so that way the earth can heal.
Yeah, and remember, we're a collective. We're all one. So if you just give one little smile to somebody in need, that will ripple through to the rest and help raise the vibration of the collective. So think about what you could do to give. Do you think that giving anonymously is more powerful at raising vibrations than the non-anonymous way, like giving an anonymous letter to your local fire department, you're praising them, etc., or does it not make any difference?
He says that part doesn't make any difference. He says if you're giving to someone and it's hard for you to give to that person, then maybe for yourself it might be better for you to give anonymously. He says so it depends on the person, but either way, he says it does not matter. Giving is coming back to you, and it's helping you to feel better as an individual.
I always feel better when I do it anonymously.
Anonymously?
I'm sure that there's no ulterior motive. I'm not trying to get a pat on the back or anything like that, but everybody's different. All right, you guys, we'll close for now. Thank you so much, Raylene. You guys check her out at angelmedium7.com, which I'll put here in the video. And Erik, thank you. I love you so much. Come visit. I need a hug. Come sit in my lap. Are you there?
Sit in your lap. Yeah, you cut out there, but I heard you. He says, I will be right there to sit in your lap, Mama. And I love you very much. Thank you, everybody, for watching the video.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.